She was not responsive. She was not breathing for 6 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Jesus breathes into her lungs and she starts to breathe. She starts to cry. Jesus resurrected her. Really cool when God goes above and beyond to show you that your life has meaning and you are valuable. This story is about my first grandchild's resurrection when God showed up and rescued my granddaughter Eden from the dead when she was born, and a couple cool miracles that have happened in her life ever since. So stick around for all of it. The doctors were concerned about Jamel's pregnancy from the beginning because the baby's umbilical cord was supposed to have another artery. I believe there are 3 arteries that umbilical cords have that feed the nutrients from the mother to the baby, and she was missing one. So the doctors were monitoring that to make sure that she was developing properly, but baby was developing just fine and there wasn't any concern about it. So the doctors sort of forgot about this problem until it became a huge problem during delivery. Jamel was in labor and every labor pain was causing blood pressure go wacky. And they discovered that the umbilical cord, because it was missing this artery, it was flimsy and it was just causing a major issue for both a mother and baby. They were both in very dangerous circumstances. So my husband and I and the other set of grandparents were in the hospital waiting room when my son-in-law came down and told us that this was happening, that they were both in grave danger and that they were going to do a C-section, and he wanted to give us that update. So I quickly rallied 35 people from my phone contact list and asked for prayer for my daughter and the baby. We just started praying. And then Nick came back down and he shared the story that when they did the C-section, Eden's APGAR score was 1 and they could not revive her. She was not breathing. And Nick had been recording the birth for about 5 minutes and then shut the camera off because they were not able to revive her. But at the 6th minute, she started to cry. So when Nick came down to see us, they took her quickly to the NICU, and he passed on the information that the doctor said that they did not know the extent of the damage of her not breathing for 6 minutes. They thought she would be in the NICU for a very long time, and they had no idea what the damage could have been for that birth circumstance. We were all very distraught about that and we're continuing to pray. The next day, we got the message that the baby was completely fine and she was released from NICU into her mother's room. And she was nursing and everything was fine. It was as though the baby had never gone through that ordeal at all, which was wonderful. The day after, 3 people from the prayer chain list called me up. Those 3 people did not know each other at all. And all 3 of them called to tell me that when they prayed, they saw Jesus putting his mouth over her nose and mouth and breathing life back into the baby. 3 people said that. She was not responsive. She was not breathing for 6 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Jesus breathes into her lungs and she starts to breathe. She starts to cry. Jesus resurrected her. So Eden had absolutely no developmental issues. She was completely fine. She was growing normally. And then there was this really interesting development. Right about when kids start to talk, Eden started speaking, but she was not speaking in English. And nobody could understand this. She was not exposed to a foreign language enough to be picking up a different language. And they took her to a speech therapist to see what the heck is going on with this baby's language. And they were baffled because they did not recognize the language. Well, right around that time, a student of mine, Isabel de Klerk, was working on her dissertation on the Holy Spirit and children in this age, the manifestation of the Holy Spirit coming upon children in this generation at a higher rate. I was mentioning Eden's language, and she asked me to take a film of Eden speaking, and she would review it. I sent it to her, and she verified that Eden was speaking in tongues. So her very first language was tongues. Then she advised us to allow English to come alongside the tongues and never correct her or tell her that what she's doing is wrong or it's not the right language. So Jamel and Nick did that, and she did catch up to English. And when she was about 3 years old, I remember, because the tongues sort of disappeared for a while. We didn't hear her doing that anymore when she started speaking in English. So when she was about 3 years old, I was reading a little prayer children's book to her, and she asked me if she could read it to me. She took the book and she started flipping through the pages, and she was speaking in tongues, one page after another. It was incredible. So she still had that heavenly language. And then I heard her speaking in tongues one other time when she was just playing with things in the playroom, just like speaking that language as she was playing. And then there's one more story I'd like to share about her that is helpful for anybody who has children who have imaginary friends. So fortunately, Jamel realized that this friend that Eden called Hissy was actually her guardian angel, because she discovered that when Eden was playing or talking with Hissy, she was just so well behaved. It was just the joy of the Lord. Jamel figured out that if Eden was acting up or not behaving, she could say, Hissy, will you do me a favor? Will you explain to Eden why she needs to listen to mommy right now? And Eden would look down like she was listening, nod her head, and say, okay, I'm sorry, mommy. It was just so cool. Eden is 8 years old now, and she has the sweetest spirit. She's got the fruit of the Spirit in her personality. She is love, she is joy, she is patience and kindness and goodness. She's just such a special child. If you were born, you were chosen. And if you've had a circumstance where you had a near-death situation and the Lord showed up and rescued you, it's just another way that God shows up. And I hope you like and subscribe and share and be part of this Then God Showed Up Miracle True Stories journey. God bless.